evening and welcome to League Teams. We're halfway through round one. We're about 5 days after the first game. We've got about 5 days to go before the completion of it. Longest round one in the history of the world. Let's say hello to our panel now, starting at the other end. The big fella, we've just been asking weights and heights and all that. Coming in at 110 kilos, Barry Hall. How are you, mate? You're actually not fat. You're as big. You've been working out, Baz.
I have. I've been training pretty hard in the off-season. I actually got a photo once and I was seeing a couple of double chins and the penny dropped then. So I thought, I've got to get into the gym here and do a bit. So.
You know the obvious question, mate. Can you bring it in? Can you bring us in that double chin photo?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to argue with him. All right, let's move on to our next legend, David Parkin. How are you, Parker?
I'm well, thanks, Derm. Just had a week riding around Tasmania. It's been sensational.
And how did you go on the postie bike?
We had a few spills.
There's not a lot of tread on the road with those postie bikes, and if it's a little bit wet down there...
When you're around Cradle Mountain and it's raining, slippery, cold, freezing...
Did you keep it upright?
It was upright.
And the bike?
The bike was upright too.
Very good. Very well done.
The three others, not so good.
How's the backside, mate?
It's always sore after that.
How much money you raised, Parkin?
Yeah, the mailbag ride is up to 150,000, Barry. It's been fantastic. The generation...
Well done.
Well done,
Or the
mate.
generosity, I should say, Derm, of Taswegians, fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Well done. And a big hello to another one of the big units, the big cat next to me, Cam Mooney. How are you, Moons?
I'm well, Derm, just coming in at 104 at the moment.
104?
So Baz has just got me.
You've all got a bit of height on your side. I've raised the bat as well. I've got 100 and I'm only 6'1" and a bit. So
I hadn't raised the bat in about 17 years. So I'm killing it.
What was your proper playing weight?
97, 96, 97.
Yeah?
I was about 100, 101. Was perfect, yep.
Barry is as big as a house at the moment and there's not a lot of fat on him. Mate, you should take up another sport.
Are you one of
Roman
those guys
Greco or...
Are you one of those guys at the gym that just stares at the mirror all day and just pumps?
Yeah. You sent me at the gym.
Does it, everybody?
Just like that.
Have you ever been in a gym?
No, not really. And I'm the living proof of it, I can tell you.
What a champion player they. Hey guys, what about the opening few days of round one and the new franchise teams as well? I watched. I think the Tigers got the first goal against GWS the other day, but it didn't look convincing. Thereafter, how good is their midfield now? How good is it going to be with another 20, 30 games into them?
They were sensational, and I reckon the AFL couldn't have written the script any better for them, dude.
Oh, they were super.
It was genuinely exciting, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? Yeah.
It was. I don't bake for any sides because we can't be biased, but it was genuinely exciting seeing these two sides, two young sides, and you see what pre-seasons do now. They just look comfortable. You know, they were all put to the sword and they just responded. So it was just fantastic for footy.
Well, I was up there on Saturday watching Sydney and GWS. And
you almost got electrocuted.
I was barracking.
Yeah.
I was that excited for them.
You almost got
I almost got
electrocuted.
electrocuted. That's what I do for Fox Footy.
Where were you when it hit? Where were you when it
I was
hit?
standing right in the middle of it. I didn't even... I can't remember who the producer was on the night. I don't know, but he just left me out in the middle of it. Benny Roberts just threw me out in the middle of it.
Gee.
Off you go,
Thanks,
son.
Benny.
Magnificent. Hey, what about up four? I mean, well done to their midfield too. Callum Ward had a blinder, Adam Treloar, Steve Cornelio Shields, and the kid down back, Sam Frost, had a great game. What about the two key forwards? Sort of came of age. We saw them together for the first time click.
Well, I kicked 7 goals between them, and look, Jeremy Cameron didn't even have a great night, and I think we've spoken about it a couple of times. He didn't have a great night, but still managed to kick 4 goals. His athleticism, his agility, his aggression, it's fantastic. We've heard Wayne Carey during the week talk about what a star he's going to be. And then Jonathan Patton, we finally get to see him stand up and have a full game. And
what Jonathan can do for a big bloke, 100... Believe it, we're talking about being, big at 100 kilos. For a kid who's 19, 100 kilos, he takes very small sideways steps and balances up very quickly. So any quick shots at goal usually hit the target. He snaps very well because he balances up very, very smartly.
He's 103 kegs to be.
Oh, is he?
So he's just got
And the example was the one he got the recovery onto the ground and kicked the goal was a bloke of 5'10" or 11.
Would be proud of it, yeah.
Oh.
Hey, you have seen the other boy more than any of us, Tom Boyd. What can we expect when he enters the arena?
He's more athletic, if you like. He's a fantastic jumper. and great agility for his size, and a real in between the two of them. He's got the agility on both sides of his body, goes in there. He took 3 marks at the start of the TAC Cup Grand Final that you couldn't believe, and then went back and kicked like he meant it and kicked the 3 goals.
Can they all play on the same forward line, being such big units?
I wouldn't have thought so.
You wouldn't have thought so. It depends what... You wouldn't think so, but it depends what the other 3 do.
Yeah.
If the other 3 are very good at ground level and create space and are able to fix up their errors, you probably can get away with it.
Well, the question's going to be, can one of those, or let's just say Patton or Boyd, play as a second ruckman? Because that's the only way you can fit those 3 talls plus, say, Mumford in the side.
Yeah, but they could, but only in the way that some forwards have gone to be part-time.
Yeah, that's all you need.
Well,
You
I think they could both.
Yeah.
Could both do that. Patton's big and strong enough to do it, and Boyd has the athleticism to get up and compete.
So to me, your 3 talls can play in that forward line as long as one of them can rotate through and be that second ruckman.
Not a bad problem.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Good problem to have.
fairly handy problem, isn't it, Baz? Now, a team that's got a fairly handy problem is they have started to get a few players come back, and I think one of your ex-teammates at North Melbourne, no, he got there just after you. He's coming back for the Cats. So let's have a look at this game. The Cats taking on Adelaide tomorrow night at 7:10 p.m. And who's got our first look at
That'll
a
be
move?
me, and look at the side there. Look,
McIntosh.
extremely experienced back line down there, as we know. The biggest one for me is going to be the forward line. Who helps Tommy Hawkins out? And Mitch Brown's obviously had a pretty good pre-season. From all reports, the best pre-season he's had since he's been down there. He's had a couple of really shocking runs with injury, so I'm really looking forward to watching him. Josh Caddy's the one that I'm probably the most excited about watching. What he does now, he's going to release someone like James Kelly, who can go down back, who I know that he really enjoys his time down on the half-back line. We saw him in a 2009 Grand Final play on Stephen Milne, did a great job, so he's capable down there. And what it also does is throws Jimmy Bartell forward. So this is what this young kid, Josh Caddy, can bring to the side. He plays well. These older guys can go and play at either end of the field.
Moose, we haven't seen them pick Taylor forward. I can't remember a game where we sat here and named him forward. Is that going to happen, or do you expect him to start back?
Look, I expect him to start back. He's the ultimate swingman in our game, as we know. Between he and probably Ben Reid, they're probably the 2 best at it. I think you start him down back, get things settled, and then once you the time's right and you feel the time's right, I think what's happening down there now is Harry's actually calling it himself.
Yeah.
When he decides he wants to run down there, he just takes off. And but the thing is, he was doing it with Podsy, where Podsy then would
cover for him
down back. So whether they have that kind of relationship, whether he has that relationship with someone else, I'm not sure. But I think they start him down back, eventually move him down forward.
Baz, you've played against him. You're going to talk about the next bloke I'm about to speak about in a second. But Baz, how good was Jimmy Bartels in his absolute peak?
Well, he's heart and soul of Geelong, there's no doubt about that, in a great era of the footy club, but he's got a bit of everything. You know, he's a crunch game player. He always performs in big games, and that's what I love about him. That's what most of the players love about him is players that perform in big games, and he's certainly one of those. He's courageous. He can play back. He can play forward. He's obviously been a midfielder. There's not much wrong with Jimmy Bartell.
Well, this is one of my favourite Jimmy Bartell moments. It was in 2004 when I just see me there just being courageous and holding my man off under the ball for him. But this is 2004. Now, he was only a kid here. In 2004, he actually wasn't starting in our side. Believe it or not, Bomber Thompson didn't rate him. And it took Darren Creswell a little bit of convincing and poking into Bomber to get him into the side, and the rest is history. But I remember just watching him fly back with the flight of that ball and seeing him take that mark, and I just thought, geez, what have we got here? What a kid.
Moons, that's on field, and I just spoke about him. Very high regards. That's on field stuff. Everyone knows that. What's your best moment off field? What's something that people don't know about Jimmy Bartell?
The best moment was when I lent him my ute to go and do some cleaning up in his backyard, and I got my car back and it was empty. Thanks, Jimmy.
What do you mean it was empty?
Fuel.
No fuel.
I thought you meant he cleaned out.
No fuel.
I met him and he's still laughing.
He seems an absolute
One
gentleman.
of the great men of all time.
250 games for Jimmy Bartell. He has been an absolute ornament to the game, and one of the few gentlemen playing the game right at this day and age, apart from the Ute saga.
Can we just say, and
Ute
just got married over the summer to the beautiful Nadia as well, and it was a fantastic wedding.
As I made mention last week, if you watched the show, we sent out some cameras to all the clubs, and we compiled a thing called The List, and we put all the same questions to every player. So we come up with the list who's the best, who's the fairest, who has the best snapshot, who's the best overhead mark, all these types of things. And the question was posed, and it's going to beautifully fit in here right now, who is the league's best clutch player?
The best clutch player would be Jimmy Bartel.
Jimmy Bartel.
Jimmy Bartel.
Jimmy Bartel.
The best big game player, Jimmy Bartel.
Jimmy Bartel.
I reckon Jimmy Bartel.
Jimmy Bartel.
I think, yeah, probably Jimmy Bartel would probably be number one there, I think.
What a glowing endorsement. Look at Baz. Baz has lost it. Ask him without notice here, can we get Brownie up one more time? Are you able to snip into it? And we'll find it in a second. That was beautiful.
Is there any more country than Jonathan?
Yeah. Terry Danaher would give him a run. Imagine the conversation between Brownie and Terry Danaher. G'day, Ty. How you going, Gines? Yeah. Unbelievable. Hey, like last week also, we've sent out the cameras and some of our staffers here to interview all of the 18 coaches. This time it's Chris Scott's turn and he is with Tony Shaw.
Few things in footy, like, when I played, probably the cycles were every 5 years. Now it looks like they've got to about every 2 years. Now it's about every 6 months. What do you predict as in another change in the game that you can foresee coming?
Oh, it's a tough one. I mean, I think the key is to stay nimble and stay aware of the trends and make sure that you choose the things that you can apply to your game style and your system. But probably just as importantly, identify the things that are irrelevant to the way you go about your business. I suspect that most people that have spoken this pre-season are probably right in that the attacking systems will improve. I think, I still fundamentally believe that defence beats attack. But I do think that the offence will get a little bit more sophisticated and test the defence more than it has in previous years.
Expectations on the club are always high at Geelong, but what about in this season?
Yeah, we're pretty optimistic. I mean, we've had some well-documented changes to our list, which could potentially make it a little bit difficult for us at times during the year, but we've got a lot of faith in our young players and we think that there are probably some clear favourites that are ahead of us in the pecking order as we stand right now, but we're still pretty optimistic that if we play our best footy, we'll be pretty competitive.
Chris Scott and Tony Shaw. And in case you missed it, we want to ask Jonathan Brown, who's playing their 250th this weekend?
Best big game player, Jimmy Bartel.
There he Magnificent. Let's have a look at the Adelaide team now. David Parkin, take us through what they've put up for us.
Yeah, look, they're in real difficulty in a sense because of I just look, Douglas, Henderson, Lynch, Otten, Van Berlo and Walker. I mean, all of those, in my opinion, would be first up and in this side if they were fit and available. So they're starting on the back foot in terms of the real talent they bring. They might be better up forward than we think. I reckon Pod's just saying that Pod's is feeling as good and happy where he is, and he's certainly going to help. The fact that Jenkins couldn't get in and young Lewis Johnson, you were telling me about, who really can play.
Well, he's a talent. He's a real talent. He can kick left and right foot. He can kick 50 metres both sides of the body. He probably just needs to realise what he needs to do to play good AFL consistent footy. He needs intensity. He needs to actually go into this side and grab his position, which he hasn't done in the past. He gets another chance, so let's hope he can do it. But he's a real talent. And
Betts already has proven that he will be a real asset for them in the front half, where they've not been able to score ground balls in the way they should. They've had blokes like Paul Pleasure in between size, Petrenko, a couple of blokes like that, but haven't been able to be dominant as a small crumbing player. So I think structurally up forward, it's down back that probably worries me a bit. Benny Rutten, interesting bloke, Benny. I think he's going down the coaching pathway. Okay. Had a bit of a yarn with him not so long ago, and it was fascinating. He got his blokes together, and like they did at Geelong, they had players teaching other players the skills that they had, or the expertise.
You did that in '95. With the Carlton boys.
Did a bit.
Yeah, you let them coach themselves within reason.
Yeah, we did a bit of that. And Benny was saying that as a group, they've taken up the challenge of actually watching the linked possessions that come into them defensively, where they start, why they start, how they control it, whose job it was to actually cover up. And to me, that's a fascinating approach with a bloke coaching his own mates and leading them down those sort of pathways.
Just quickly, that just sounds very much like a Darren Milburn. I think it's always someone else's fault. when it comes to
Boy, he never talked about that. He never mentioned that. He said he's going to lay it on the forwards for not chasing them out.
Well, the head coach at Adelaide is Brenton Sanderson, and our own David Kingy caught up with him.
Externally, the message when you go and recruit Eddie Betts and James Podsiadly is that you've targeted 2014 as a winnable year. Is it as simple as that?
Oh, yes and no. I mean, you're always looking to make your squad better, and whether that's a player who's 27 or 30 or 32, you look to make your squad better than it was last year. And we have lost some players over the last 4 or 5 or 6 seasons, and some really good players too. You know, guys that are top 10 draft picks or first round draft picks. So what we needed to do was look to make our strong better than what it was in 2013, and I think with Pods and also with Eddie Betts we've done that. We've brought in guys that have played on the big stage, that have played, Eddie's played over 150 games, Podsy's played almost 100, but he's been part of that great Geelong model, that premiership success model. So they'll bring in not just great footy skills, but they'll bring in knowledge for our group as well. You look at the top 2 or 3 sides and they are outstanding, obviously. And then there's a group of about 10 or 12 clubs, I think, who are probably like us, all thinking if we had a few things go our way, we could be really hard to beat this year. But having said that, like last year we had a couple of bad injuries to key players. That can just all of a sudden drop you a couple of rungs down the ladder. So we need to start well, that's really important. We need to hit the ground running. We've got a really tough start to the season, so it's imperative that we get away to a flyer and then maintain that form for as long as we can deep into the season.
With the help of David King, Brenton Sanderson there, Adelaide coach. So he said as they get away to a flyer, their first 3 games, Geelong, Port and Sydney. Tough games.
Yep.
Thereafter, Saints, GWS, Doggies and Melbourne. So if they win 2 of their first 3, they could be in a really, really healthy position.
But they could very well lose their first 3.
Zipping 3.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Baz, you went down the highway yesterday and caught up with their biggest fella, the Tomahawk down there. Here's Barry Hall with Tom Hawkins.
Is it annoying that he's a clean skin? There's nothing on him that can really drive home game day about?
Mate, there is actually. He's Pods is I've got no dirt on him. He's been a great mate of mine throughout my career down here, and I'm looking forward to playing against him. He did text me, however, during the week, and just to try and throw me off, and he reckons that he might be starting down on me. So we'll wait and see. We've kept in contact throughout the pre-season, and he seems to be flying. He's dropped a bit of weight. He looks really fit for a 32-year-old. He's doing all right. So, but I thought the warm weather over there would have grown his hair back, but Bazza, it hasn't yet.
You need to water it.
Yeah,
a bit of water and sun grows anything. But just finally on Joe Pod, who's likely to pick him up?
I think probably Tommy Lonergan will go to him. I think they suit each other pretty well.
Well done, Bazza. There with Tommy Hawkins. Now, he did mention Tommy Lonergan. Let's have a look at him. Moons, talk us through. 198 centimetres and 95 kilos, up against 100 kilos for the Pods. A little bit heavier, a little bit shorter.
Well, he is, but the thing is with Tommy Lonergan, look, he always gets the number 1 forward. He has for a long time now, because they like to swing Harry Taylor from both ends. So there's no point starting Harry on, say, Pods or the number 1 forward, and then 5 minutes into the quarter, Parko, he goes down to the forward line, and then you've got to bring Tommy on. So Tommy will start on him. Like I said, he's a pretty good defender, Tommy. He's become a really good defender. Didn't have a great year last year compared to the year before, but from all reports, he'll bounce back pretty well this year.
Absolutely.
Tommy. So it's going to be a good matchup.
All right, sorry, Parker.
Without warning, 7 home games at Simmons Stadium.
Yes.
I think 6 of the home are going to be night games. Only 1 day game at Geelong for the supporters. Is that strange?
No, not strange. Look, have you been down there at night?
I have.
It's
a picture coming over the hill from Leopold.
Yes, it's a beautiful.
Unbelievable.
It looks fantastic down there, and
it's a push by the Geelong publicans.
And the home supporters have actually really embraced it, and they love it down there. And you're right, the publicans do get a nice little kickback in the coffers. I'll tell you.
So the Western District farmers have got to drive from Hamilton or Warrnambool to see it, and with their kids, they're going to be very happy to drive home at midnight for their kids the next day.
Absolutely, they will.
Oh, okay. It's a very good sell. Very good sell.
All right, start at the other end. Baz, who are you going for, Adelaide or Geelong?
I think Geelong will be too strong.
Me too, Geelong.
Yeah, Geelong for me.
Cats for me also, but it doesn't mean much. I went zipping 4 last week. I couldn't get a winner. Okie doke, let's take a break. And after the break, we'll be back with Essendon and North Melbourne. Have a look at that.
Best Golden Fister between Harry Taylor and Tom Lonergan. It's going to go to Harry Taylor.
For the Golden Fist, if I didn't say Gibbo, he'd be filthy. So Harry Taylor.
Josh Gibson. Sorry, Ted.
Best snap. Oh, there's plenty of them around. I think all the Geelong boys.
Best handball, Jack Revolt. I saw him give one once and it was a beauty.
Well, I like to live by the motto that you can't handball goals.
Jeez. Definitely not LaCroix.
The best field kick is not Brendan Goddard.
Best opposite foot kick. Best opposite foot kick. Yeah, that's what I said.
Pass. I can't think of one.
The best player at winning a free kick would be the whole Selwood family. Bryce, Marie, Troy, Adam, Joel and Scott.
I think Joel Selwood has to be number 1. Good mate of mine, but he's pretty good at it.
There it is again, the list, and the Selwoods take a slap. Joel Selwood's copped it a bit, and we had a little bit of that flavour last week as well, and a lot of people have given us some correspondence about, hey, give Joel his say. So I think we're good to run with it now. Joel Selwood on milking free kicks as part of the list.
The best at winning a free kick would be me.
There you go. For everyone who wanted to know what does Joel Selwood think of it.
That is fantastic.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to our next game now, and it is North Melbourne up against Essendon. Let's have a look at it. It is on Friday night, 7:50pm on Fox Footy, Channel 504. And the Roos, let's have a look at them. Barry Hall, and let's see what the Roos have put up. They haven't put up anything yet. No team sheet yet.
We're a little bit away from the game yet, Derm. They don't want to give too much away, but it's a big year for North, there's no doubt about that. Daniel Curry and Joel Tippett, the brother of Kurt, looks likely to play their first game, so that's a big in for them. Look, they were a little bit disappointing in the NAB Challenge, but I wouldn't be too many panic stations for the North fans. I think the big inclusion is Nick Del Seno. That's the big recruit in the off season. He's going to really give them something they haven't got in the midfield. They obviously got Goldstein, they got Wells, Harvey, Zeeble, Swallow. He just gives them something a little bit different. They got some real good in and under players with Zeeble and Swallow.
They're well catered for hard nuts around the middle of the field in the right age bracket. Wells gives them the dash and can use it. I actually thought halfway through last year they needed one silky ball user. And they got him.
And he's probably one of the best decision makers in the game right now. He's real cool under pressure. He very rarely makes mistakes. But Parko, where did you have North Melbourne? Did you have him in the top 8?
Yes, I had them not well in, but I had them in the top 8. I thought if you get that close that often, another year of maturity, one extra outstanding player, they should win at least 50. And a really good draw, I would say. If they don't make it, they're never going to make it.
Well, Sydney sit on top with the most experienced and oldest list, then Fremantle, then North Melbourne. So they're up there. And their time to strike is basically starting from now. They're a little bit shy on positions where they should have finished last year. You're right, they robbed themselves of 3 or 4 game wins. So this year they need to make some serious inroads because you hang on to lists, you prep them for the future and you see your corridor coming and you tinker with that list when you believe you're going to be there in 2 or 3 years' time. They haven't tinkered, so they've let their list grow up. This list is the one they believe is going to take them.
Well, they rank very highly between 50 and 120 games, which is the optimum time.
That's
and
the zone.
They're one of the highest ranked teams.
And now Del Santo's in, they don't have, in my opinion, a structural weakness. They've got everything covered.
And before you go, I can't believe they want to not play the opposition's theme song at the conclusion of the game. If ever there was a more pathetic...
Was it at the conclusion or at the start?
No, at the conclusion, wasn't it, if the opposition win? If ever there's more a pathetic effort at upsetting the opposition. I tell you how to really upset the opposition. win.
Just win.
Beat them.
Or run through the huddle.
Moons. Let's have a look at the Bombers. Let's talk about
Speaking
the
of running
Bombers.
through huddles, we'll talk about Essendon. They've had a poor pre-season. I think the big inclusion, obviously, is Paul Chapman. Really looking forward to seeing how Chappie goes. Obviously, a star. He'll bring so much experience. He'll bring goal kicking, which I think that's what they're going to need, because looking at their pre-season, they have struggled to kick goals. The big conversation over the summer, I guess, has been Hurley playing down back, and obviously Carlisle playing up forward. Now, how long is this one going to last? I don't know.
You don't agree with it?
I'm not saying I don't agree. I think Hurley is, and you and I have had this conversation plenty of times, Dern.
Yep.
Hurley is a 8 or a 9 out of 10 backman, but he's a 7 out of 10 forward. 7 out of 10 forwards are hard to find, aren't
Yeah.
they? And they're really struggling. They have struggled to kick goals. I'm not sure if Carlisle is a permanent key forward. I think he's great at swinging down there at times and going down there for a quarter or a half, but he's more comfortable down back, so I'm not sure how long that experiment is going to last for.
Has Essendon got enough stock, like a Geelong, to make him that swingman type of a Harry Taylor?
Well, who talking, Carlisle or Hurley?
Hurley.
Look, I'm not sure, because look, they've lost Cramery now at forward, so I'm not sure if they've got the stock up forward to deal with that at the moment. So it's going to be an interesting time for them, I think.
The number one weapon for me for Carlisle is his ability to read the ball in flight, the depth of the kick, and that is the number one prerequisite for playing as a backman, a tall backman, because you can body out, you can read the flight of the ball. Alrighty, let's go for tips. This is a tough one to go with. I found every game tough last week. Baz, who are you going for, North or Essendon?
I think a settled Essendon.
Okay, I'm going for North.
North for me.
I'll go for... I can't remember. All right, North.
You let us down. you let us down.
All right, okay. Let's have a look at the Hawks and the Brisbane Lions at Aurora Stadium. It is at 4:40 p.m. on Saturday, Channel 504 again. Parko, let's have a look at the list Hawthorn has sent through. And look at that red strip along the bottom. There's a few there.
Well, a lot, and they won't play, will they, Derm? You know better than I. They might play one, at the absolute most, 2 debutants, I would have thought. And if they do, from what I've seen, it'll be either Tim O'Brien, who looks like he really can play, what I've seen of him, and Derek Wanganeen, because he actually comes in and does a role that they require someone to follow.
Back flank, runner, sprint.
A Guira type, position, I would say. So, I mean, whilst in name there, the players we've got, they look a very settled mob. There's probably, 7 or 8 that are missing from the premiership side last year, I would have thought. Rioli, Lake, both suspended for a start. Guira, Bailey and Osborne are both gone. Stratton, Schoenmakers and Sewell aren't around. I mean, there's a massive number of players who are out of the best side. So they're got to do a little bit of rebuilding, I would have thought, Hawthorn. Getting them down there where they've been almost unbeatable probably doesn't help Brisbane too much. It might help Hawthorn a bit. So I think they've been in such scintillating form, they can't lose that overnight.
Yeah, they should be up for this one. Well, Alistair Clarkson spoke about the endeavours to stave off a premiership hangover, which happened at the end of 2008, entering 2009. 2013 premiership, how's he going to keep it at bay for this season?
There's no doubt you learn a lot of lessons from the experiences you've had in the game, and one of those was winning in 2008 and then not making the finals in 2009. So we've obviously put some things in place that will hopefully correct that a little bit. The benefit of wisdom and hindsight is a great thing. So hopefully we'll be better prepared for 2014, but it's a brutal game. You just never know what's around the corner. So whilst we've started the season okay in terms of a couple of good wins in the NAB Challenge, we know we've got plenty of challenges ahead this season. We've been able to nurture a few lads along the journey. Jack Gunston's really stepped up over the last couple of years, and Luke Bruce, Paul Piopolo. We didn't have a hell of a lot out of Cyril last year because he injured for a fair part of the year. So, we're disappointed the big fella's gone, and it's a bit hard to see him in a red and white jumper, but we feel like we've got enough guys in the side that can step up.
Now, I'm not sure what's going on down there at Hawthorn at the moment, but I'm not sure if Clarko would be really happy with one of his boys, Jonathan Simpkin, who just decided to throw a little bit of a selfie out there today.
Oh, no.
What's going on down there, Parko?
Today?
Premiership player.
He's got your hairdo from 1960.
He's very happy with his new do, Simo.
It's good.
I've actually got to root for a side after that. But taking on Hawthorn is the Brisbane Lions. And it's all about how much Brisbane can improve this season. They were one game off making the finals last year, but Justin Lepage up there, new voice. There was a lot of talk about mass exodus, but you've still got a lot of good players in their list. Got Leuenberger, Zorko, Maloney, Redden, Hanley. I've heard you speak about Hanley a lot. He's a future A-grader. He's a really, really good player. He's just improving out of sight. You got Rich, you got Rockcliffe. But for me and Brisbane, it's who they're going to get their goals from. I know Jonathan Brown. It's probably unhealthy for them to rely on Jonathan Brown now. He's getting a little bit older. He's going to give you value. But if you're hanging your hat on Jonathan Brown winning your games now, it's probably unfair on him. They need to find goals from somewhere else.
Their second forwards besides Brownie seem to be sub-sized ruckmen masquerading as key forwards, not key forwards masquerading as sub-sized ruckmen. If you know the difference, what I'm talking
short term, you got to probably look at Merritt, who has to go back there, even though we know he's a really good defender, but he has kicked goals, and Staker's probably the other one that played down there late last year. But long term, they are in a bit of trouble. Definitely.
Looking forward to the fortunes of Brisbane this season and beyond. Justin Lepage is at the helm, and he spoke to our own big fella, another big guy, Alistair Lynch. Big Al with Justin Lepage.
We're coming off a rough season for the Lions with the chairman and the coach going, a few players going. What should Brisbane supporters be excited about going into this season?
And that's another year on for our midfield group, to take another step. I mean, I'd love to see an All-Australian in there between Rockcliffe and Rich and Redden and Hanley, to take them from the good players they are to very good players. I mean, that's one step of it, and then you got the other end where you got, James Aish, how good is he going to be? Nick Robertson, he looks like a nice tough insider. Is he going to play a lot of games? Is he going to play a few? So they're the sorts of little wins we'll have this year. Game styling wise, I hope it's the consistency they see in what we're trying to achieve. I really would like to avoid the blowouts, whilst the first pre-season game never helped that particular one, but it's really I want to see that. I don't want us to get into the position to be 50 points down to have to come back to win those sort of games. So that'll, so my approach in how I'll teach the guys and reinforce things will be based hopefully consistent, so they can be consistent on the field.
Thanks for that, Lynchy, and thanks to one of the great guys inside league football, Justin Lepage. Guys, Hawks and the Lions, Baz?
Hawks too strong.
Hawks, and I hope that helps our next guest, who's running the book on them, and I'm tipping you'll have a shocking tie on. Matty Campbell, are you there?
I am, Darren. Let's be honest, you're just jealous because my spots are bigger than yours. But anyway, first up tomorrow night, Geelong are solid favourites at $1.33, but we have taken our fair share of bets on the Crows at $3.30, and at the line getting a start of 5.5 goals. So, from our perspective, it really will be a case of go Cats. On Friday night, we're getting money for both teams again, with the Kangaroos at $1.64 and the Bombers at $2.25. But what is interesting here is that all the money for the line is for the Roos to win by at least 9 points. That tells me that North punters are much more confident than their counterparts. Then to the much anticipated game on Saturday night, where 2 weeks ago the D's were even money. Now they're at just $1.55, with the Saints blowing like a turtle out to $2.45. But there is some interest in them to get within 2 goals to pick up $1.92. Now boys, finally, one punter we'll be watching very closely. Take a look at this 8-leg multi-bet. Last week got the Giants right, got the Suns right, Port right. Now he needs Adelaide, Essendon, the Lions, Saints and Eagles to win. It's a long shot.
$1 million.
But he stands to win $2.58 million.
Oh, magnificent. So for this punter, we have to go for Adelaide, Essendon. Oh, look at this bloke. It'll change his life. No, I'm not prepared to this bloke's life change for Essendon to win, mate. I'm sorry, I can't stomach that. Sorry, mate, we want you out the door. We want the Bombers to lose just for the sake of it. Lions, Saints and Eagles. Thank you, Matty. We'll speak to you again next week. Thank you. Matty Campbell there. Okay, when you walk through the door this weekend, you can, before you walk through the door on your iPad or tablet, you can download the app here, the AFL Record, or a $5 as you walk through the door with Parko. And don't forget, during round 1, your subscription fee for the app is free. So get onto it this weekend before you walk through the door, or have one of those little purple pieces of polymer by your side. Okay, let's go to a break now. Coming up after the break, the Saints and the D's.
there's the headline of the day, Kerry leaving Arden Street. And you were pivotal in that.
Yep. Well, it's one of those things that, as much as probably Wayne wouldn't like to see that, unfortunately for the rest of his life he is, and I'm going to see the headlines about me.
Sally Carey said that North Melbourne, his teammates, you as his manager, and she as his wife, had all let him get away with murder, and that precipitated that explosion. Is that fair comment?
It's a comment that's stuck with me for a long time.
Part 2 of the Ricky Nixon interview with Mike Sheehan on Open Mic Monday night. I think it's 9:30. Yeah, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Must-see viewing. Let's go to our next game now. St Kilda take on Melbourne at Etihad Stadium, 7:40 p.m. Saturday night. Moons, talk us through the St Kilda team list.
Look, obviously we haven't got it in yet, but look, if you look through the list right now, we have no Fisher playing, which is going to hurt them down back. McAvoy obviously going to Hawthorn, which is a move. A few question marks about that one. Del Santo's gone to North. Montagna won't be playing, and Jack Stephen won't be playing either. So you've got so much of your talent out for this weekend alone. We know they're in a rebuilding phase. They're going to have a really, really hard season, but to get off onto at least a winning start to the season is so important for both these teams, and I think the loser of this game is going to have a lot of questions being thrown at it, Parko.
I think it's quite dramatic, because if you're looking at where they are and who they are, we've all picked them. I think I looked across the list in the bottom 3. They might see both of this as a chance, A, to get a start and maybe to get one of the few wins because they're in the same position. So I think it's a pretty emotional sort of time for both those clubs. If one falls over badly in this game, it would not be good for that club. Oh yeah, for 2014, that would be not good. If we've got a good competitive game, might be a little different.
I would think it's never been a worse time to be at the bottom end of the ladder the last 12 months to this moment in time.
Because
GWS and Gold Coast have taken all the talent out of the draft. So you have to trade your way into young talent coming into your team. So everybody's seen what's been traded to them already. So you're going to have to do some clever trade deals to get through this.
Have the Giants got any more priorities next year? Or are they now it's back to normal?
You're asking the wrong guy.
No, I think that's gone. But I mean, who do you see? Who do we see, in fact, has the greatest potential in terms of what they currently have, without waiting for what comes in? Who starts with a better platform?
From Melbourne and St Kilda?
Melbourne and St Kilda, yeah. Who would you rate? Would you rather be Roos or would you like to be Richardson?
I think, that's a really tough question.
Well,
you know what? It's probably going to be answered at the end of this game. Because we're actually going to see young Chargers against young Chargers.
Well, you talk about what St Kilda don't have. When you go across to Melbourne, Viney and Hogan are two of their, in my opinion, absolute guns. I've seen both the kids play. They won't be playing this weekend, not available.
Not to mention
the two that pointed there, Dawes and Clark, who were going to give them some real structure, and I reckon Clark can play. I don't know what their short, medium or even long-term future is for those two boys. So there's some missing talent that both would really like to have and use.
I think on paper Melbourne have probably got the better list, but a lot of them aren't playing.
For the current game, it tends to be more about what's in the midfield and the depth of that talent in the midfield. And the Melbourne coach is Paul Roos, so let's have a look at his one-on-one now.
Too simplistic for us to say that you'll just wind the clock back 4 or 5 years and play the Sydney style. What will change and what will be the style?
Yeah, I mean, it probably is. I mean, I guess what you're looking at is always, grand final teams. But I think the consistent themes are, and even if you look at the Super Bowl, I mean, the Super Bowl, everyone went in and said it's the high-octane offence versus the great defence, and what won? The great defence. So I think, we're seeing more and more the consistent themes that have got really good defensive strategies, and a lot of times, the rebounding comes from those early strategies. The flood, everyone pushing back in defence is gone. I don't think that happens much other than when the ball movement's up around 70, 80 metres. So it really is getting in the opposition team's face and trying to get the ball back as quickly as you can. So it's really, and I think what Hawthorn do better than any other team is deprive the opposition of the football. They just kick it around and it's like a game of keepings off in the grand final. So I think it's just taking the best of the best and trying to impart that on the play group.
What are your expectations of Melbourne this year?
Well, it's probably the question on everyone's lips, and I know the Melbourne supporters and everything. I think the expectations are, we just need to get the basics right, and we need to get a really strong game plan in place. We need to continue working on their habits, their training and their habits during the games. But I probably don't even know until we actually start playing, because I haven't seen this group. We've got a lot of new players coming into the group, which I think's been a real positive. We've got a lot more depth through our midfield. But the reality is we haven't played a game yet. So, look, my expectations are we just got to be a lot more competitive. As I said before, 52% meaning you're almost getting doubled every single week. So, we've got a lot of work to do, but I'm confident that the players are heading in the right direction.
Paul Roux speaking there. Well, we can only gauge on the NAB Challenge results, what they've put up for us. Let's have a look at their stats from last season against the NAB Challenge 2014 version. They're plus 90 for disposals, plus 97 for uncontested possessions. So they're sharing it around and wanting to retain it a bit more, and they are plus 37 with marks. So that works into uncontested possessions. So it's twofold. The opposition can't score when you've got it, unless you give it back to them straight away, and you force them to fatigue a little bit more when they're chasing you more often. Players and teams against Melbourne last year, as soon as they got it, they weren't fatigued, so everything was downhill rolling and they could take them to the cleaners. Baz, who are you going for?
Melbourne. I'll go for Melbourne.
I'm with him. I reckon they've got better at retaining it. I reckon last year they were trying to retain it, not with the same, but couldn't. But this year, they're obviously, by those statistics, retaining and protecting themselves for a bit longer.
Safe.
Protecting from a blowout. But yes, for that reason, I'm going to go Melbourne.
Melbourne also. Melbourne clean sweep. Let's take a look at our next game now. It is the West Coast Eagles up against the Western Bulldogs. Sunday, 4:40pm, Channel 404, 404, Barry Hall. Let's take a look at those West Coast Eagles. Well, let's talk about them.
Let's talk about them, Derm.
No list in yet.
They've been really impressive in the NAB Challenge, no doubt. They've had a great pre-season. Little injuries. They've got Waters, he's out to 4 to 6 weeks. But other than that, Big Nick Nack, he's back. He was unlikely to make round one, but he's ticked every box in terms of training the last month. He's trained the house down, and he's come a long way in a short period of time. So he's going to play round one. That's a really, really good sign for them. But a new voice, Adam Simpson. We know what a good job Worsfold's done over there, but a new voice. They just look enthused. They look really up and about in the pre-season. So
there's another one we've trained up for somebody else, the Hawk, Adam Simpson coming from the Hawks. Actually, you mentioned Adam Simpson. Let's have a look at what Adam Simpson has to say about the season ahead.
At the moment, we're just looking to improve, to be honest. We finished 13th last year, so if we can get some improvement on that and win some home games, they're probably the two main ones. Just the overall, having a new coach, and coaching staff, there's a lot of change. Even the program's changing a fair bit as well. So I think you'll see little tweaks on everything, to be honest, and how much you'll see that, or it might be just little things you don't even notice, but there's definitely a lot of change. Yeah, we've done a lot of work on some flexibility in our side, and with the rotations capped the way they are, and the ability to play in different positions, I hold that as pretty important to a player. We've all got different life lessons and journeys over the to get to where we are. So I think the biggest thing I've learnt from mentors around is you got to be yourself and try not to be Dennis Pagan or Alistair Clarkson or Dean Laidley. So I've just got to be myself. That's the biggest thing I've learnt.
And obviously they're playing the Western Bulldogs this week, and Bob Murphy, 250 games, absolute legend of a football club. Well done, Bob. No Griffin, the skipper, won't be going over, but hopefully won't be too far away. But that's a bit of a stinger for them. Look, I can't wait to see how they go. Look, I've been with them all pre-season, obviously, and they're very excited. They're chomping at the bit. Can I say that?
Yeah, chomping at
the bit because of the dogs.
I think it's champing at the bit. Correct.
Champing for horses, but funny as a funeral, isn't it?
Look, the big inclusion obviously going to be Stuart Crameri. His work rate has been phenomenal all pre-season.
You've seen him. Is he going to play midfield?
Look, he'll throw some bit of time through there. Absolutely will. Yeah. Look, again, just like Adam Simpson said, the ability to have players that are so versatile now, that can go to the midfield and go down back or forward, whatever it may be, they're so important, those players, and Stewie's one of them. But look, they need to get off to a good start to make sure they take the home crowd out, and once they do that, we'll see a good Doggies win.
Brendan McCartney is their coach. Let's have a look at what he sees through the crystal ball for 2014.
Your expectations, you've gone 5 wins, 8 wins. What are you expecting this year?
That we look like we know what we're doing wherever the ball is on the ground, and I don't think a lot of people quite understand how intricate that can be. It's a simple game at times, but there's also turnovers create a different set of circumstances when we create them, or if we have the other team do it to us. There's so much being thrown at teams that are learning the game now. They move people to stoppages, they take people away from stoppages. Just being able to deal with that so that we handle the game better, and we're really confident we've got enough talent to capitalise on that, provided we can deal with training, deal with the week in, week out rigours of games. I know the players are hell-bent on preparing and living their lives like they want to be a finals club. And that doesn't mean you become a finals club, but it's the first step. It's the starting point of, you can't think about playing finals until you're doing everything about it every day of your life. So that's the next step for us, and I think we're getting a lot closer than some people may realise and some people mightn't realise.
What does Stuart Crameri do to your forward line or your club?
He's a good kid to coach. He's powerful, but a lot to learn about the game, which I knew having worked with him. And he's got some physical qualities that we don't have a lot of in our forward line. We've got good young tall forwards that I still believe in my heart are much closer to being good players than a lot of people realise. He'll probably just take a little bit of that physical heat off them and complement them, and they should complement each other.
Brendan McCartney with Kingy. Let's go to a former doggy now. Bazza, who are you going for?
West Coast, unfortunately.
West Coast at home?
I'm with Baz.
You traitor. Dogs.
Doggies! So I shouldn't laugh. That's disrespectful. West Coast for me too. Okay, next door. Coming up next is Gerard Whaley, and he's with David King. The boys are in there already. Good evening, guys. How you doing?
Very well, Derm. We're heading down the highway tonight to speak with both coaches for tomorrow night's match. So we'll have Chris Scott and Brenton Sanderson standing by as they prepare to launch their seasons.
Excellent. Now, Kingy, I want to ask you a question. Justin Lepich is up for his first official outing as a coach of his new club. You formed a really good friendship with him when we went to Ireland 13, 14 years ago. Will he be able to galvanise this group, which seemed to be fractured somewhat at the end of last season?
Oh, look, he's a very positive guy. He has the ability to unite a group, as we saw in Ireland that time. He's just a lovable big bear, but I think he commands respect. When he's in the group and when he speaks with authority. I think he'll be fantastic. But I do think it's the toughest job in football at the moment. A non-AFL market. You know, the list has been absolutely savaged by the exodus of last year. So for me, his first priority really is to get that environment right.
Thank you, Kingy. Have a good one, boys. We'll be hearing from you in a few minutes' time.
Thanks, Tim.
The boys from 360 up there, up next. But we're going to go to a break first. There's still plenty more to come, so don't go away. Welcome back to League Teams. Let's go for another little stroll backwards and ask Jonathan Brown who the best player he reckons is to have the ball when the game's up for grabs.
Best big game player, Jimmy Bartel.
I love the still. He's really leaning into it too.
I love it. The only thing he doesn't do is get a gun and go at the end of it as well. Come on, you can do a brownie for us, can't you?
No, I tell you, Corey Enright. If you ever get Corey Enright on the SIP, does the best Jonathan.
They reckon he's very good at every impersonation, though, Corey. Let's have a look at the predictions. We've done ours. Parker, you and I have done ours, so people have seen them, but that was last week. So let's have a look at you and Barry Moons. You've got the Hawks first. Barry's got Fremantle first. You two have got the same grand finalists. And Moons, you got St Kilda last. Baz, you got GWS last.
Look, Essendon was the one that I really struggled with. I had them at fourth. I put them in. Then eventually, as I started putting more teams into the 8, they just kept dropping down, and they finished ninth. So.
Well, we rolled in everybody's predictions as to all of our panellists. I mean, all of them on the roster, and this is what we came up with when we averaged them out. Fremantle to win. And the Hawks to come second, and guess what? I've paused enough for time there, and we're out of time now, so sorry about that. Hope your team goes really well this week. 360 is up next.
This has been a Fox Footy production for Fox Sports.